what really worked about this speech, I don't think you would have done that speech in that way when you first joined in what, January? That was so much more composed than even you would have done it a few months ago. So I think that's worth taking stock of before we start to break down any of the technical aspects. The first thing that I liked was when you had near the beginning, you were talking about more. I can't remember the exact things, but you were talking about kind of more freedom, more environmentally conscious. And that's really, you put that into the context of how we've started to realize these things because of what we've been going through for the last 2 years and how you'd foreseen that. So at the beginning, you're setting out your stall in terms of like, what is this actually going to do? It's going to help facilitate more of this. And you use the classic speaking tool, the rule of three. You may have used more than the three, but as long as you've got at least three, people start to hear that as a boom, 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 boom pattern. So that was the opportunity, if you like, of what you're doing. And then you introduced the problem a little bit later on, how you said, right now, the issue is that I am the bottleneck, everything goes through me. And in order for this to really expand, we need to take away that narrowest point in order to, so you demonstrate the problem and the challenge, which you've got to show both. You've got to show this is why it's really good, and this is what needs to be done or changed, or what I need help with in order to make this big, because that's where you get the buy-in. People are going to buy in and help you when you say, okay, this is the challenge that I need help with, and then they're going to buy in and they're going to help you. So we had the opportunity, we had the challenge. And the third thing that I really liked was where you talked about the funding. You said, I've got $150,000 to help with this. So that's some fantastic social proof there, saying, look, someone has believed in me in this project enough to invest this money. Maybe you should invest that money as well. There's just that little kind of sort of subtle, this isn't something that is a pipe dream. It's something that people are already buying into. And then it provides that social proof that maybe other people then are open and more willing to also buy into it as well. Maybe not to that level of investment, but if you can get 15, 10,000 investments, or 150, 1,000 investment, and you know, do the maths and play around with it. Just having that initial figure, it gives people a bit of a benchmark and an idea of, okay, this is sort of how much credibility the project has. So those are the three things that I liked about your speech. 3 suggestions for improvement. The way that you started, you said, I'm going to talk to you about, and for me, you're always going to talk to your audience about something. That's why you're doing a speech. So that's one of those kind of nothing statements that it doesn't have anything juicy within it.
Yeah, it's not what I wanted to say. It's not what I rehearsed.
Yeah, which you're making up on the fly. So you're like, I'm going to talk about, and now I'm going to go. What I think you can do instead, you actually had a better opening, a sentence or two after, where you said, this started 20 years ago. I would start there and bring forward your story about the relationship. That's the personal human element. That's the story aspect. When you start with a story, that's one of the ways you can bring, it's not the only way to bring people in, but that, from what you've shared so far, I think if you bring forward that story, that would make the opening more compelling, more engaging, more relatable as well. So I'd shake all that about. Talking about the story, my second suggestion is a bit more of a technique focus. When you started talking about the relationship, that's when you lost a lot of your eye contact, which has actually been pretty good up until that point. And of course, the moment where you're being vulnerable and sharing pain is when you want to hide away and protect yourself.
Yeah, because it's like something I'm ashamed of. Yeah.
But of course, that's the moment when actually you need to establish that connection most, because that's when people are really going to resonate and connect, when you're in that. So you're on a bit of a hiding to nothing here, because that's the time where you want to put the barriers up the most, when actually that's the time where you want to drop the barriers the most. So being mindful of that and just trying to stay a little bit more present and stay a little bit more focused with the audience than you were this time. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just try and stay with them a little bit more, because that's when you'll get them involved. They'll start to buy into who you are and what you do and where you're coming from. And then my final suggestion, later on in the speech, you were talking about some of the features of what you do. And whenever you're selling, and this is ultimately what you're doing, you're selling the idea here, not in terms of like selling stuff out the back of your car, but you're selling this idea to people. You don't want to focus too much on the features, because people aren't interested in the features. When I tell you, so this has a fancy blah blah chip, and it's got a triple HD double camera, like nobody gives a shit about that. Nobody gives a shit about the camera or the chip. What people care about is, I can access anyone in the world anytime. I can record my life and my memories. I can stay in touch with loved people. I can have my impact on the world through my message, my products, my services. That's what you're selling, what the phone does, not what the phone is. So that's the difference between features and benefits. So when you're talking about, for example, the workshops you're going to do, by all means say, okay, here we do these workshops, and we do the workshops so that people are more comfortable within themselves. They're better communicators. They're more conscious about the environment. So mention the feature briefly and then really dig into the benefits, because people want the ability to connect with anyone in the world, not the chip, camera, blah, blah, blah. That's not what they're looking for. So make sure you really dig into those benefits. When you mention the feature, give us a bunch of benefits, rather than just telling us we run workshops and move on, because anyone can run a workshop. What we want is the transformation that comes from the workshop.
Thank you. That is so valuable, because I even feel like that's part of my process, is that I would talk about, well, we've got these spaces, and it's like, well, who gives a shit about the spaces? You're like, what are they gonna do for me? Thank you. Wow, that's good.
So even if you just turn it to the space that gives you space to be yourself, gives you a safe space. You can still use the word space, but think of it in terms of, what do people want from that space? They want time away from the office. They want time to focus on their passion. They want time just to get out of their own head. So by all means, tell them about the space, but what does that space allow them to do? And you'll get a much better buy-in from that.
Thank you. Your $1 million check is in the mail.
150,000. So I hear. Fantastic.
Wow. That's so valuable. Thank you for that feedback. Thank you.
The first part of each meeting will be a workshop delivered by myself, where you will learn the key tenets of public speaking so that you know how to structure your speeches, tell engaging stories, and be able to prepare for any speech at short notice. You'll learn which techniques help you appear and feel confident, hold your audience's attention, and inspire them to take action on your message. We'll also cover what tricks you can use with technology to create more engaging speeches, unite large groups of people, and establish yourself as an expert in your industry. In the second part of the meeting, members will take turns delivering a 10-minute speech and get evaluation from everyone in the club. This will allow you to identify weak areas to sharpen your skills as a speaker, practice important content to get it just right before you deliver it for real, and allow you to experiment with new material in a safe, supportive environment. Additionally, every 12 weeks, we will have a networking party. This is a meeting dedicated to building connections with each other so that you can make friends with like-minded people from across the world, find out about new opportunities to speak and serve, and create partnerships that allow you to increase your impact and income. The Virtual Speakers Club is a unique blend of learning, community, and opportunity that will help you develop your skills, build your network, and make your difference in the world.